Hello and welcome to the Earth Trust podcast, where we bring you inspiring stories and insightful conversations about the people and projects making a difference in our world. I'm Susie Kemp, and today we have a special episode dedicated to celebrating Volunteers Week 2024. Volunteers Week is a time to recognise and thank the incredible individuals who generously give their time, energy and skills to support various causes. For this episode, I'm joined by Nic Williams, our volunteer manager, as we're shining a spotlight on the dedicated volunteers here at Earth Trust. For more than 40 years, passionate individuals have been at the heart of our efforts to engage people with the natural world and empower them to protect it. Now, with more than 200 people in our growing community of changemakers, volunteers are the lifeblood that keep our impact growing. Throughout this episode, we'll explore the invaluable contributions our volunteers make, hear personal stories of their experiences, and learn about the events and activities planned for Volunteers Week 2024. We'll also discuss how volunteering not only benefits the environment, but also enriches the lives of those who give their time. So, whether you're a seasoned volunteer, someone considering getting involved, or simply interested in the incredible work being done to protect our planet, listen now as we dive in and celebrate the amazing spirit of volunteerism that drives positive change in our communities and the world. So hi Nic, thank you for taking time out of your busy Volunteers Week this week to speak to me today.
Hi Susie.
So you've been at the forefront of coordinating and supporting our incredible volunteers for 5 years now. Can you share a bit about your role and responsibilities as the volunteer manager at Earth Trust?
So I really enjoy matching people to the right role and seeing what they get out of it. It's really rewarding because there are so many benefits from volunteering. Meeting like-minded people and creating this new kind of friendship group, being out in the great outdoors and exercise is another byproduct, learning new skills. That is just really rewarding for me in my role.
You really listen to them and you ask how they're doing and you check what they want and what they need and you make sure the needs are met, basically, don't you? And you are like the Earth Trust matchmaker, I guess, aren't you?
I do like to think of myself as a silverback of volunteer management. Thank you, Susie, for recognising that.
You find the right people and then match them to the right kind of activity, because there are so many different activities that we offer with our volunteering programme. Can you just tell us a bit more? What types of roles do volunteers take on at Earth Trust and how do they help contribute to the overall mission of the charity?
So around half of our volunteers are land management. So that's our work parties, our weekly work parties who go out and manage our green spaces with our ranger team. We've got surveyors, butterfly surveyors. We've now got dormice surveyors, newt surveyors. There's all sorts going on. And of course our community wardens who are out at our community reserves supporting us in looking after those. We've then also got office volunteers who are absolutely indispensable. We've got our ambassadors who go out to our green spaces and come to our events and talk to people about what we're doing. We have events and education volunteers who, just recently helped us to put on our spring festival, which we absolutely could not have run that event without them. And then, of course, our education volunteers who help the education team to run that programme. So we offer a wide range of roles and we try and make them as flexible as possible to fit in with people's busy lives. So the roles support us not only in managing those green spaces, but raising awareness of campaigns like Nature 2030, which we're involved in, our education programme, and they're the forefront of Earth Trust. They're on the front line and meeting our public and visitors and sharing their knowledge and skills with them. That's why a lot of volunteers want to get on board with us, and they're really passionate community of change makers. Most of our volunteers are very passionate about their environment and they really want to support us in making a difference.
Absolutely. So can you tell us what makes a good volunteer then? What qualities or skills do you look for when you're recruiting new volunteers?
Okay, so I'm going to say what makes a good volunteer? Anyone can be a volunteer. So it really is about, I think the hardest thing about being a volunteer is just, choosing what you want to do. There are a lot of options out there, but then making that first step to come along. What makes a good volunteer? Probably someone who's a bit braver to sort of step outside their comfort zone. Everyone here is really welcoming, the staff and volunteers alike. So it really is a nice experience. People can come without previous experience and skills. We welcome everyone.
Yeah, and some people, they stay for years. I mean, you've got volunteers that have been volunteering with Earth Trust now for over 10 years.
Absolutely. So every year we recognise our volunteers who have been with us for over 10 years, just with a token of our appreciation and just saying thanks to them publicly, because we're really lucky to have these people who are so passionate about us and enjoy volunteering with us so much that they've been with us for so long.
And what kind of training or support do you provide to ensure that they're well prepared for their roles?
So we have role-specific training. So when people sign up, they register, they fill out our registration form, they read our staff handbook and safety guide, and then it really depends on what role they're doing as to what training they'll receive, because we have such a varied array of roles. So if you're an ambassador, you would spend a couple of sessions with the staff lead and also experienced ambassadors, just training you to make sure that you're confident, and then you're always buddied up with someone as well. So yeah, it really does depend on the role.
And what skills do volunteers typically gain or develop through working with Earth Trust?
Again, it really depends on the role and what the person wants to get out of it, because it's a reciprocal relationship. So lots of people find that as a byproduct of going to the land management groups, they learn a lot about their environment, the environment around them, how to manage their own gardens, and you know, it changes your perspective on how you look at the world around you. And then randomly I was sat in the kitchen yesterday and the education volunteers were talking about all the questions that they'd been asked by the school children, and they'd been asking about salamanders and what were pollinators and all these sorts of things. And one of the volunteers said she's learnt so much since she's been here, and particularly around the history, because they deliver Iron Age workshops to the children. So yeah, there really is so much to learn. It just depends what you're interested in.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's just so much going on at Earth Trust. I mean,
all of the time.
You've mentioned we have ambassadors out at our community spaces, so those are our spaces that we manage over in Didcot,
Wallingford and Abingdon, and we manage those for South and the Vale.
Which is great, because people living in those towns, they've got a space near to them where, you know, it's not far for them to travel, and they can be a difference in caring for their local green space.
That's right.
I became a volunteer in January, working with Terry and Robert, and it's been a really pleasure working with them and everybody else here. It's a very enjoyable and relaxing hobby, volunteering. So to sum up, this is just a really enjoyable place to work, like-minded people.
One of my favourite memories so far is the first time I worked with the Friday Land Management Group, and we were working in part of Whittenham Wood, doing some coppicing, and then had a big bonfire. It was quite a cold day, and then we all sat round sharing our tea and sandwiches and having a good laugh together, and it was just absolute bliss, and the first of many lovely days. I'm very lucky.
So Thursdays I come up volunteering as part of the maintenance team, and it's great fun, really social, and we do a whole variety of things, everything from, well, sometimes it's not, cleaning pigeon poo one week, right through to doing amazing projects like building the wood store and compost system as part of the education garden. And Earth Trust is an amazing place to come and volunteer. Lots of great people, great ambition, and really enjoyable time.
Can you share a memorable story or two about volunteers who've really made a significant impact?
Yeah, again, so I think all of our volunteers make an impact depending on their role. We really value any time and effort, or all time and effort that they give. A couple of people who really stand out to me are a lad called Finn, who came to do work experience with us for a few weeks, and he was very shy and looked terrified every time I spoke to him. And then he went off, he was doing associated college course, and then he started coming out to our land management work parties with our lovely volunteers who all looked after him and showed him what to do, and he really flourished and grew in confidence. It was really amazing to see, and now he's got a job in Wales working for the RSPB. So that just sort of shows you from a younger person's point of view what volunteering can do for you. And then I've got to say, two ladies that always stand out to me are Margaret and Rose of Thursday Group. They're real stalwarts of that group, and they welcome everyone in, and I just think they're real matriarchs of that group. I absolutely love them.
And in what ways do your volunteers help to engage the broader community in connecting with nature and caring for our environment?
So that's kind of the byproduct of what our volunteers learn about, and we have our ambassadors out at our green spaces, encouraging people to walk around, look at the wildlife and adventure out into different parts of our green spaces. At our events we have information stands, which is normally looked after by our ambassadors, just giving people more information about what Earth Trust does and what we stand for. And then we have our land management groups and our community wardens who are always accosted by the public at some point during their volunteering session and ask lots of questions.
And that's it, because they are the forefront of Earth Trust, aren't they?
They're our representatives,
exactly.
So they're talking to the public and seeing them every day.
And how do you recognise and celebrate the contributions that the volunteers make to keep them motivated and feel appreciated?
So, of course, it's Volunteers Week this week. So this is the national celebration of volunteers across the country. So we're doing lots of things this week. We spend some time writing thank you cards for every volunteer. So it's over 200 volunteers that we sit down and write cards for. And we put their hours in that they've donated for the previous financial year. And then we've got a guided walk this afternoon on one of our wetland projects, River of Life 1, just to say thank you to our volunteers again. So we're going to have our thank you event on Saturday. All our active volunteers are invited, and we're just going to have some cake at the castle.
A little tea
party
Nice.
At the end of because we've now got a Saturday land management work party, so it's to coincide with that. So they're going to get half an hour off early, so we can have some tea and cake. So that's happening, and and we just go out and we see the groups and thank them in person. We don't just recognise volunteers during Volunteers Week. We have our insight sessions, which happen twice a year for volunteers, and they give our volunteers the opportunity to see behind the scenes of what the staff are doing in the office, so they can really learn about what they're doing to support us in our roles. We have one of my favourite events of the year at the end of September every year, and that's the Volunteer Social, where we have a band, and it's a really nice time to say thank you. We have a little bar there as well, which is normally run by the Rangers, so that's really nice. But we also, every week we send out our volunteer bulletin. We've also got our volunteer Facebook page, which now has around 70 volunteers on it, all sharing stuff about wildlife and their experiences of volunteering.
Absolutely. So you are kind of the eyes and ears of Earth Trust, really, because you're talking to these members of our community that are out doing the jobs day in, day out, and we learn so much from what they tell us of what they're experiencing and what they're seeing around them.
We do, and that's why we try and get out and speak to them as much as possible. We visit the groups regularly. We've now started these forum sessions as well, so people have more access to giving us feedback, because we really do want our volunteer programme to be the best it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking ahead, what are your hopes and plans for the future developments of the programme at Earth Trust?
So at the moment, most of our roles are at capacity. So we've kind of got 12 main roles that are on our website. There are some more ad hoc things that come up, but really now it's concentrating on the quality of the programme. We've got our new volunteer experience team, which is all of the staff leads that look after the volunteers in the charity. So we're meeting regularly to check in, to try and deliver a more cohesive volunteer programme across the charity, and also just giving them some training in gaps that they feel are missing in their volunteer management. We've just launched our young persons volunteering programme, So we've got about 15 people on that now. There are 6 different roles on our website, and you can do that if you're D&V. You can do that just because you want to. So that's really a really lovely thing to have launched. That's all thanks to Hugh, our apprentice, who has now left us. Just developing partnerships across the county to try and see what other things we could do. We're obviously following our volunteer plan, which is on the volunteer webpage. We've got our volunteer steering group, and we've just launched the volunteer forums, which the steering group are supporting. So we had our first one of those in Abingdon the week before last, and some really interesting stuff has come out of that. So it's giving us a real chance to get into those communities and talk to the volunteers to find out what their experiences are and what they want. And then at the end of the last forum, one of the volunteers suggested launching a volunteer-led social committee. So he's going to get a little committee of volunteers together. They're going to start planning some nice quizzes and stuff like that to really bring our community closer together.
Yeah, because that's what it is. Volunteering, it's all about people coming together with something that connects them all. And the connection is they all care for the environment, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's brilliant. And the young people's volunteering programme that you mentioned, that's so important, because one of the problems of the environmental sector is young people find it hard to get in because they haven't got the experience.
That's right.
So volunteering is that opportunity to get experience in the field, isn't it?
That's right, Susie. Young people, it's very hard to get into the environmental sector, but it just gives kids that confidence as well, and a bit of responsibility. It's all up to them to do their hours or a couple of hours of volunteering every week. So it's a really good thing to start doing when you're younger.
Yeah, absolutely. And so finally, how can people listening get involved in Volunteers Week this week? What are some ways that they can support and celebrate volunteers in their own communities?
So that's the tricky bit about volunteering. Volunteers don't tend to want too much fuss and recognition. That isn't the reason they do it. So I think if you know someone who volunteers in your community, it's really nice to just say thank you and recognise that, because that really goes a long way. We'll obviously be doing all of those things to thank our volunteers, just say thank you.
And we do thank them indeed, because we wouldn't be able to do half of what we get done at Earth Trust without the support of this really incredible community. So yes, we really do want to take this opportunity during Volunteers Week especially to say thank you to everyone who's dedicated any of their time, be it just an hour or 5 hours a week, whatever they're giving up. We really do appreciate every minute they give us. So on behalf of Earth Trust, we'd like to say thank you. Thanks a lot, Nic.
Thanks, Susie.
To find out more about the opportunities currently available with Earth Trust, please take a look at our website, earthtrust.org.uk/volunteer. And if you visit one of our green spaces and see someone with an Earth Trust logo on their shirt or on their hat, you don't have to stop and say thank you, but you could. Happy Volunteers Week.